So you've seen a lot of people have come through your school. Like, would you say the craft, the art world is alive and well in terms of the specialty that you work in?
Well, I'd have to divide it into two halves. I mean, the Traditional Crafts Association of Japan is pretty vibrant. The classical techniques are taught and used in a very modernist way. The area that I'm interested in, specifically the old techniques and aesthetics and approaches that were used by the sword fittings makers, the Tosogu artists, that's pretty moribund at the moment. In my view, there seems to be a bit of a log jam in Japan, in as much as far as I know, there are no full-time makers. They do other things. They might be sword carvers, do the carvings on the blades, or horimono-shi, yes, or what one might call dilettante. And I don't mean that in a negative way. These are people who, it's a very serious hobby for them. They may make a piece a year. In fact, that's typically the case. They make a piece a year for competition. Pretty much the same piece every year, if I'm absolutely blunt about it.
Is that a financial thing, or?
I think it reflects a great deal of Japanese educational system and the way the society functions today. Risk-taking is very risky. It's great if you're successful, but if you do something that doesn't meet with approval, the consequences can be quite severe. So originality in that sense is very hard to come by. There are any number of international artists, Japanese artists, who had to leave Japan.
It sounds stifling.
It is very stifling. You ask Hizi Miyake. He visits Japan, but he reckons he will never live there again. Because innovation is a difficult thing to push. And it's interesting because all the great artists we admire from Japanese history were innovators. They were the iconoclasts.
And many would consider you in that class as well.
Well, that's very kind and flattering. But when you're up against a conservative mindset, artists in Japan have got a hard time. I have a much easier time with it because, in a sense, I'm outside of it. The rules there don't apply to me anymore. At this point in my career, I feel actually free of that. I still very much work out of the tradition and have, I feel a great responsibility, a sense of giri, obligation to the past and to the future. But that's my concern now. I look to Japan in terms of contemporary sword fitting work, and I see pastiche and fairly uninspired work, if I'm blunt. That's disappointing. My own teaching methodology in terms of advanced students, as you know, is to apply utsushi, the study of masterpieces. It's a way to try and understand what makes them great masterpieces, and of course elevating the students' own techniques. Marcus Chambers, of course, being our recent most notable success in that regard, again exemplifying exactly what I've been teaching, what I've been saying. But he knows, and I know, that's just the start. You have to find your own voice from within that tradition.